Humans have existed on Earth for centuries now, but there have been creatures that could be found roaming across the planet years before human civilization took place. Sadly, the rapid evolution of the human species came at the cost of uprooting some of the most magnificent animal species to ever exist, and eventually led to their complete extinction. However, we were fortunate enough to trap glimpses of them on camera, which can be cherished and researched upon even today. Let's explore 10 such majestic extinct species in this video. Quagga. Have you ever spotted a quagga in an encyclopedia and wondered if it was a zebra? If so, why is it faded in texture? Why does it have a brownish tone to it? To answer all those curious thoughts, yes, a quagga in fact belonged to the family of zebras. Their appearance made them a topic of interest for many researchers. One behavioral distinction between quaggas and zebras is that while zebras come across as gentle and rather calm species, quaggas were powerful creatures, with a length of around 101 inches and a height of about 50 inches, weighing between 250 and 300 kilograms as a fully grown adult. So, now you might be wondering how this beautiful and unique creature went extinct. To state simply, it paid the price for its enchanting appearance. In the late 1800s, quaggas were hunted to extinction by European settlers. Quaggas couldn't reproduce quickly enough to prevent extinction since hunters killed so many of them. Although they also have predators like big cats, humans were ultimately responsible for their extinction because of our desire for their skin, flesh, and sport hunting. The world's last quagga passed away in Amsterdam's Artis Majestic Zoo in August 1883, and the last wild quagga was slain in South Africa's Free State in 1878. For the curious ones among you who'd want to witness the extinct zebra and learn the quagga's history firsthand, both the Peabody Museum in the United States and the British Museum in London still have about 23 taxidermied specimens available. Tasmanian Tiger. The Tasmanian tiger, also known as the Tasmanian wolf and thylacine, was a carnivorous marsupial. It had distinctive wolf-like characteristics, but tiger-like stripes extending down its side from its back. Interestingly, around 5,000 thylacines are thought to have lived in Tasmania at the time of European settlement, and some had also been discovered on the Australian mainland and in New Guinea. Now, coming to the big question, what led to the extinction of the Tasmanian tiger? Due to its perceived threat to the domestic sheep that European settlers had brought to the island, it was regularly hunted in Tasmania. Between 1830 and the 1920s, at least 3,500 thylacines were thought to have been killed by humans while being hunted. Thylacine population declines were also significantly influenced by the introduction of aggressive animals, like wild dogs, foreign diseases like mange, extensive habitat damage, and other factors. Passenger pigeon. Ectopistes migratorius, which translates to moving about or wandering, also popularly known as the passenger pigeon, was a social and colonial bird native to North America and required a huge population to create the best breeding circumstances. The bird's physical attributes, such as grace, speed, and maneuverability in flight, were in line with those of the animal. The passenger pigeon needed enormous forests to survive because of how many of them it gathered in. The birds were compelled to relocate their breeding and roosting grounds to the still existing forests. When the early settlers cleared the eastern forests for farming, the birds started using the farmers' grain fields as their access to the forest's food supply diminished. The farmers replied by shooting the birds and using their meat as a source of food because the enormous flocks of passenger pigeons frequently caused significant damage to the crops. When professional hunters started netting and killing passenger pigeons to sell in city markets, there was a noticeable decline in the number of these birds. But the Great Massacre didn't start until the 1800s. The passenger pigeon had almost entirely vanished by the early 1890s, and it was too late to enact regulations to safeguard them at this point. Baiji. The ghastly distinction of one of the first specimens of dolphin to be wiped off by humans belongs to the Chinese river dolphin, or Baiji. The Baiji was one of 5 dolphin species that were known to only live in freshwater. Baiji is a Chinese word, meaning a white dolphin. A native of the Yangtze River system in China, the Baiji is thought to be an extinct species of dolphins belonging to the freshwater. It is believed to be the first species to go extinct as a result of human activity, although no one is aware of their exact lifetime. These extinct dolphins are thought to have had a lifespan of about 30 years. There were a number of notable factors that led to the extinction of this unique species. overfishing being one of the most prominent causes. The Baiji's sole source of food, fish, was depleted due to overfishing, and dolphins died as bycatch. Unfortunately, the Baiji suffered greatly as a result of numerous damaging fishing methods, including gill nets, rolling hooks, and electrofishing. The frequency of dolphin deaths from a propeller or ship collisions increased as there were more and bigger boats, which is another big factor. Ultimately, in December 2006, the Baiji was declared officially extinct as a result of overfishing, habitat degradation, increased maritime traffic, and pollution. Ivory-billed woodpecker. Let's move on to a delicate and dainty bird species that has unfortunately made it to this list. The ivory-billed woodpecker was a bird of old-growth forests in the southeastern United States and Cuba. It was the largest woodpecker north of Mexico and the third largest in the world. Ivory-billed woodpecker bills were used as embellishments and little decoratives by Native Americans. Archaeologists have discovered ivory-billed woodpecker skulls outside of the known range of the woodpecker due to a booming bill trade that spanned much of North America. Unfortunately, it was declared endangered on March 11, 1967. Populations of woodpeckers declined due to the destruction of their mature, or old-growth forest habitat, and by the 1880s, the species was scarce. As a result of the war activities in World Wars I and II, the destruction of the forest and much of its ecosystem increased and led to the complete wiping out of the ivory-billed woodpecker. Penan Ibex. The Penan Ibex was a species that is native to the Pyrenees, and the northern Pyrenees were the most prominent habitats of Penan Ibex. The Penan Ibex started to perish as a result of conflict with domestic and wild ungulates. In dry years, this resulted in interspecific competition and severe overgrazing, which had an impact on ibex. The risk of spreading both indigenous and foreign diseases rose as a result of the introduction of wild ungulate species that were not indigenous into the ibex habitat. When Celia, the last remaining wild Penan ibex in the world, was struck by a falling tree in January 2000, the species officially went extinct. Penta Island tortoise. A recently extinct Galapagos tortoise subspecies that was indigenous to Ecuador's Penta Island, known as the Penta Island tortoise or Penta giant tortoise, saddened the hearts of many. Penta tortoises were a common food source for whalers during the 1800s as they made their lengthy voyages. The Penta tortoise was probably environmentally extinct by the early 20th century. Through the middle of the 20th century, fishermen also killed tortoises on an as-needed basis. The last male of the species, adorably called the Lonesome George, attempted to mate with another subspecies, but no viable eggs were produced. On June 24, 2012, Lonesome George passed away, and it was thought that his passing would have led to the extinction of the subspecies. Teopa Pup Fish. A subspecies of the Armagosa pupfish, popularly known as the Teopa Pup Fish, went extinct by the year 1970 as a result of habitat change and the introduction of non-native species. It was heart-wrenching to have this beautiful blue creature face its end at the hands of natural circumstances. One must note that the Teopa Pup Fish belong to the killifish family, which is widely distributed throughout North America. These fish likely developed in the middle of the Pleistocene epoch, when the now deserted area was intermittently covered by pluvial lakes. Faster currents were created to increase the temperature of the downstream water beyond sea level, far above what a pupfish could acclimatize to. Due to these modifications, related pupfish from the Armagosa River were unable to go upstream and mate with pupfish from Teopa. It was confirmed that the only specimen of Teopa pupfish left was taken on February 2, 1970. West African black rhinoceros. With populations in present-day Cameroon, Chad, the Central African Republic, Sudan, and South Sudan, the western black rhino has a wide range spanning Central and Western Africa, making it the northernmost rhino subspecies in the continent. The western black, like most rhinos, found the 20th century to be incompatible with its long history of living in these nations. Early in the century, rhino numbers were quickly destroyed by widespread sports shooting. Then came industrial agriculture, which converted numerous former rhino habitats into farms and communities. At the time, farmers and ranchers saw huge herbivores like rhinos as pests and threats to their crops. The killing went on. In the 1950s, powdered rhino horn, which was advertised by Chinese New Medicine, as a cure for anything from cancer to fevers, was one of the many cures it offered. At the time, poachers flooded into Africa. A startling 98% of black rhinos were slaughtered by poachers between 1960 and 1995, either to meet the Middle Eastern region's growing and ravenous demand for TCM, or, to a lesser extent, for the horns to be used as ceremonial knife handles. Eventually, the western black rhino was officially listed as extinct in 2011 as a direct result of poaching and the illicit wildlife trade. Golden toad. The golden toad, a true toad species that is now extinct, was previously widespread in a small high-altitude area of roughly 4 square kilometers to the north of the Costa Rican city of Monteverde. Its only habitat was the elfin cloud forest. So what could lead to the brutal extinction of such a small species that couldn't possibly pose a threat to human or other animal species? Nature's catastrophe. One of the most prominent natural factors was unforgivingly heavy rainfall. It didn't begin falling until after the dry season in 1988 to 1990. In addition, the rain started out quickly rather than slowly. Faster-filling frog breeding pools may have eliminated the window of shallowness required for breeding. Researchers initially identified a potential offender in 1993. Chytridiomycosis, a deadly illness caused by fungi in the genus Batrachochytrium, was a problem. Currently, scientists attribute the golden toad's likely demise to the chytrid fungus. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.